The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. It's Down to Business with Jack Miller. Forget what they teach you in school. This is real life. Not Wall Street, but Main Street. He and his guests will answer your questions and provide you with valuable information. Stay tuned and join in the conversation. Follow them on Facebook at Jack Miller Down to Business or on Twitter at HJackMiller1.
When the earth was created.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Jack Miller Down to Business. Here with my main man, Todd Cohen, live Wednesday, 6 o'clock. Todd, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Jack?
The truth is, I'm super excited. I don't care about Kavanaugh. I don't care about the Supreme Court. I don't care about business problems. You know why? I got one of my favorite superstars from TLC's blockbuster, off-the-charts hit before the 90 days. And Paul, who my wife and I are obsessed, we're super fans. I know, is it embarrassing to tell people that you're a super fan? This is what you do after married 30 years. You watch these shows all day long.
Are you president of the fan club? I mean, how big a fan are you?
We've watched, I think I would qualify to be in the running of the fan club. I don't think there's a fan club, but the truth is, I start thinking about it at like 10 o'clock in the morning if it's on that evening. So I'm excited. So with that, let's just bring Paul on because I have so much to jump in with them. Paul, are you with us, my friend?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey, Paul, thank you for joining us. I can't tell you how much this means to me. So, Paul, before we get into it, because last show ended very dramatically, I just want to ask you this question, which I think I know the answer, but I sort of want to do a legal disclaimer. I'm assuming you're under some kind of non-disclosure agreement with TLC. Is that a fair assumption?
Yes, all cast members are.
Okay, so if I ask you anything that would violate that, just tell me to shut up and change the topic. I don't want to ask you anything that would get you in trouble or get me in trouble, okay? So Paul, I have to first, I have so much to talk to you about, but I have to ask you how you and Karine are doing and issue my condolences. For those who know, the last show, which airs Sunday night on TLC, Paul, unfortunately, they had a tragedy. They lost a baby miscarriage. And right before that, there was a lot of drama. Karine told Paul she wanted a divorce. Paul, I'm sorry to start with this, but I feel like I have to because this is how it ended 4 nights ago. So how are you and Karine doing?
We're doing a lot better. It was a very tragic thing that neither one of us expected. We never saw that coming. And I was in denial for a very long time. I mean, I was in that room asking question after question. I just wanted to know, if we did something wrong, what was going on, or if they're actually positive, because I had no idea until I actually saw the episode what the doctor in the room said. And actually seeing that for the first time, actually seeing what he was saying, it just it really hit home for us, and we definitely it brought us to tears. It's one thing you really won't ever relive.
Yeah, I think it brought all the viewers, it was you've had a lot of traumatic and a lot of dramatic scenes, which we're going to talk about. And I feel bad starting off on this one, but I have to express my condolences. And, it was clear that you didn't really understand what was happening, and it's just heartbreaking. So with that, can I do a quick about face and start talking about some of the funnier stuff or some of the maybe lighter stuff? Paul, you got this girl pregnant, right?
Yes.
Okay, so Paul is it fair to say, Paul, I'm a little bit of a germaphobe. I don't like to touch people, maybe not to the extent that you are. But to those who've seen the show, no, Paul, is it fair to say you're an extremely cautious guy with things like that and touching things? And I was telling Todd before you got in one of the lake, you put a thing on your thing so parasites don't crawl up there. Fair?
Yes.
So you're pretty cautious. So
how do you get a girl pregnant if you're that cautious?
Were you trying or what happened? I mean, I know what happened. I have 3 kids of my own, but what happened with that, Paul?
I mean, romance blooms and nature just kind of takes over, and you a lot of those things you ain't worried about as much anymore. Yes, Greenie. Can you the door? Okay. 1 second.
Tell Karine we said hello.
Hello? Couldn't see. I'm sorry. Ordered some food. I apologize.
She's bringing food?
Yeah, order food.
So, out of curiosity, what is she ordering? Just out of curiosity.
This is an American restaurant. Oh, wow. Okay. Obrigado. Boa noite.
Are you in Brazil right now?
Possibly.
Oh, you're not allowed to discuss that?
So, Paul, what's on the menu for tonight's dinner? I want to give my wife some suggestions because after this, I'm going to go home and I'm going to eat. So what are you guys eating tonight?
Let's see. Looks like...
Or you don't know?
Oh, no. Not 100% sure. It looks like there's cinnamon roll, some pancakes, a cheesecake, and looks like I think it's a steak. So.
Mike, partially my kind of food. So, okay.
Yes.
So,
Jack, can he sort of, for the uninformed like me, and I apologize that I'm not a viewer of this show as of now, but maybe I'll be converted by this interview. Can you just quickly summarize, I guess, what this show is and how you met your wife and everything that led up to to this point?
Did we lose Paul? Oh, here he is.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I didn't disconnect for a second.
Did you hear my question?
No, I did not hear it.
So,
sorry.
Todd asked you to summarize 90 Day Fiancé and before the 90 days and how you met Karini.
Okay. In regards to what the show is as a whole, or my experience on it, or
yeah, your experience, just for the unindoctrinated like myself.
Okay. Well, I originally was debating on going to the show, but I had been talking to Karini for like right at a year, actually a little over a year possibly, and I was very nervous to actually travel to Brazil, first time in the country by myself, travel up the Amazon River, not speaking the language by myself, had me very, very, very nervous. So I figured it was intelligent for me if I could possibly go with the film crew. That way I had that safety net in case anything went wrong. And we had a lot of things happen on that trip. A lot of things that didn't make it on the air, but we had a lot of things happen. But it was season 1 was very scary. We had a whole lot of problems that came up. It was unexpected that we had to deal with. There was a lot of drama that actually didn't make it onto the show, but we had a lot of unexpected things happen. But basically what they do is they follow the American into the foreign country and experience the culture shock, kind of like the reverse of regular 90 Day Fiancé. Because 90 Day Fiancé, you see the immigrant coming to America and having their culture shock on the differences and if they make it or they can't make it. Well, with me, I just basically did the reverse of that, going to Brazil, meeting her, and then, of course, season 2, actually dealing with the wedding and everything in Brazil, doing the reverse angle of the show. And it was it's nerve-wracking not having your family with you, all these things that the immigrants deal with on 90 Day Fiancé. I got to live that, and it's sad not having your family, not having your mom, your dad. You can't pick out, your best man. It's a lot of things, culturally you're used to they don't do, and it definitely makes you have a different perspective for a lot of the immigrants in America. Seeing what a lot of them have to deal with. Actually seeing what it is like to do that in a foreign country.
Todd, not to mention, he doesn't speak Portuguese and she doesn't speak English. So when they speak to each other, they have to speak through, I don't know if you use Google Translate or some translator, which is kind of funny, by the way. By the way, it's always been my sexual fantasy to make love to someone who I don't understand what she's saying and she doesn't understand what I'm saying. So, Paul, hats off to you. Paul, you may want to just hold whatever device you're back because you're like we're only seeing, that's perfect. That's where everyone could see the full side. So let me go back a little bit, Paul. Let's start out. In America, before you went on 90 Day Fiancé, was it hard for you to meet women?
I had actually dated quite a bit, and I didn't have a lot of luck. I'm very different psychologically than most people, I guess you could say, personality-wise. So I guess I just things didn't jive with a lot of people. And I really wanted somebody that was really good, really was going to take religion seriously and take a lot of the things, with culture and things very seriously. And with Karini, like I said, I talked to her for a little over a year. It was very, very, very intense, trying to, understand the whole thing with the language barrier and meeting firsthand. I mean, it brought her to tears. It was very nerve-wracking for me, but being around each other so much, we both learned a little bit of each other's language. So it's actually kind of funny. Like, whenever family and friends come over, they'll see us talk. We'll talk in a way that we can understand each other, but we'll speak I'll speak in Portuguese as much as I can, but I'll substitute words I don't know with English words, and she'll do the same thing with Portuguese. So it's very strange that we don't understand each other. But some people will look at us like they're just kind of confused. But I mean, it works. Now, Karini's English has improved quite a bit. She's a very vocal 90 Day Fiance fan. So when she watches the show, she expresses her opinion. She has a very strong opinion of every single cast member. We definitely do not have the same opinions in regards to cast members, but she's very, very vocal about it. So if she ever gets on a tell-all couch, it's going to be very, very interesting. I will say that.
I think she's going to be on one. So you grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. They show your mom. I've read online, and how's your mom doing? Because I've heard that she's had some health problems.
Yes, mom is a breast cancer survivor, and it was a very aggressive breast cancer. And so she went through the treatment. She lost all of her hair. Took her a while to grow it back. I mean, when she was going through that was when I was actually incarcerated pending trial for the arson charge. And she would come see me at the visits, and Karini is yelling at me again. She would come see me at the visits, and when she would come see me, her hair would actually come out in clumps. Yes, Karini. Yes, Karini. Karini. Huh?
This
What,
is
Karini?
Todd,
Sorry.
this is great.
Does she want to join the interview? Is she allowed? Can we do that?
Hi.
Hi, Karini.
Hi.
Hi, Karini.
Hi.
You look very. Paul,
Kurt-
I guess that's it. Paul, tell her she looks beautiful in Portuguese. I don't know how to say it in Portuguese.
Karini, I have to tell you, I haven't heard that name much in my life. It's a very nice name, and I like a band called Fish in the United States, and they play a song called Karini, which I love. I don't know if you've ever heard the song.
So, Paul, again, I want to focus on your mom. How's your mom's health now?
Well, I mean, once she went through the chemo, I mean, it changes anybody for life. Anyone I think has gone through or has a family member has gone through that, it affects them a lot. She's doing better now, to my knowledge, but I mean, she's getting old, she's getting weaker, she's doing the best she can. I know season 1, she was very, very, very nervous after it aired. She was nervous. She got off the internet for a while. She was nervous to go in stores. She was nervous to go to work. But she's doing better, a lot better health-wise. And with all the other stresses that came along with the show, she's doing a whole lot better right now.
Well, it must not have been easy to see her son on the show, and they tore you apart a little bit. And I want to clear some of that up with you. So please send her best. She seems like a loving mother, and it's obvious that she loved you and cares very much about you, and please send our best to her.
Absolutely.
Let me go back again. I want to go back to Kentucky. So it's hard to date women. It's hard to find someone there. So you chose to go online at some point, correct?
Yes. I originally went online and talked to many people. I mean, most of them spoke fluent English. There was one that was a doctor, an ER doctor. There was a vet. There was some very well-established people, and they all spoke fluent English. But me and Karini seemed to hit it off quite a bit.
Were you open to any country?
Yes, I was open to even America still. I was open to America, Asian countries, Latin America. I was actually going to a Spanish school, trying to learn Spanish. And I wasn't anticipating falling in love with a Brazilian or speaking Portuguese. So otherwise, I've been studying a lot. beforehand, but the app that we were using, it was automatically translating it. And then when we decided to meet and then everything, it was a lot harder than what we expected, because when our phone died, we're trying to communicate, and I'm not the best at charades. It would get very complicated at times, trying to communicate. We're trying to, get a point across on different things. And this is our cultures and different things are very, very, very different.
So
even the medication is still very different.
At what point did you decide to, I guess you applied or auditioned for 90 Day Fiancé? Did you meet Carini first, and then you said, or how did it go?
No.
Walk me through the sequence of events.
I had already been talking to Carini for a very long time. What happened was the casting process is I originally messaged them, and they messaged back the very next day. And I was debating on it. So then I waited maybe 3-4 months, I forgot. And then I messaged him back, said, okay. I sent him the video and stuff like that. We did the Skype interview. And then from there, the casting process took a little while, a couple weeks. Then they did the background check. My background check took a very long time. They had to look everything up. They had to go through everything. It had to be okay by TLC and Sharp both. And they take background checks very seriously. I can tell you that for a fact, because there was another couple on this season that got canceled. They were a Brazil couple. An American woman and a Brazil guy, apparently. And to my understanding, they were actually in production. They were filming here. And they got back the background check. It was so bad, they canceled filming. When the woman found out what was on the background check, she broke up with him and went back to America with her. So it was an utter fiasco.
So
surprised he didn't put it on the air.
Gotcha. So I think now's an appropriate time, and just to let everyone know, Paul and I talked about this beforehand. I asked Paul if there's anything he wants to talk about, I want him to clear the air, and if there's anything he doesn't want to talk about, I wouldn't mention it. I think Paul knows I'm committed to criminal justice reform. And Paul, why don't you tell everyone, because it's been on the air, but I think the fans have heard little snippets. And sometimes when you hear a snippet, you don't get the whole story. Like, people didn't know when you were incarcerated, your mother was going through this cancer. So why don't you tell everyone from the beginning of the arson, clear the air, tell it all. We'll ask you questions, we'll get it out there, over with, and then you're going to be done with this. And I think people are going to be sympathetic to you, because I think you're doing the country a good to be candid with you by telling everyone the problems that you went through and some of the injustices in our criminal justice system, because other people are going through it now, and I think it'll help them.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really, really nerve-wracking thing. And the biggest thing is, I'll say, and not just with arson or anything else, is if somebody said something, like they make a statement that so-and-so did such and such, with very little to no evidence, they'll make an arrest and hold that person in jail pending that charge. And I've seen a great deal of people that should not have. Now, in regards to my case, I was arrested roughly 1 year after the fire. The fire was in the end of 2006, early 2007. I was arrested in 2008. Then, I was in there for, maybe in the end of 2007, I think, because I was actually in jail for 18 months. Then after 18 months, I was offered, basically, it was my trial date, but the trial date was pushed back, and it was right before Thanksgiving. So they made me an offer I could take a deal, and rather than waiting for another 12, 18 months for another trial date, I could go ahead and go home to my family. It was right before Thanksgiving, so it was an emotional time. I don't want to think.
I don't want to put words in your mouth,
Yeah.
but your mother was in serious condition with the cancer at this time, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
That's
so
correct.
because that's important. That's important. In fact, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I want America to know she was visiting you, and you told me clumps of hair were literally coming out.
Yeah, it was depressing.
Yes.
Most of her hair was falling out of her head, and because she would go to chemo treatments, and she'd come see me, and it was and she'd fight through the people. It wasn't the best. It was just, it was the jail. I mean, not the best of people are down there, and they would fight and argue and everything else. So it was nerve-wracking. Now, being incarcerated too, I mean, I saw a lot of people that were locked up. There was one guy. He was a really nice guy. but he was actually fighting a murder charge. He was in there. He fought his murder charge for 10 years. His case was rolled over and trial date pushed back for 10 years until he finally made it and actually beat the case and got released and everything else. But that 10 years fighting your case, and I've only been there for a year and a half. There was another person that was in there. Somebody had made a statement that he had done sexual things, like with child molestation, things like that. And he said he was innocent, so he was going to win this no problem. So he fought it. He fought the case. And they offered him a deal. And he said, no, I'm innocent. I'm fighting this. And he fought it. And he was, like I said, he was, from what he told us and everything else, I'm going to win this because I'm innocent. I didn't do anything wrong. There's no evidence that I didn't do anything. He got 25 years for something that, and he was shocked. He's like, I don't understand. How, without me ever doing this and being fully innocent, how can I be convicted of this? It's a scary thing. It's very scary. Is people, with me, when I got arrested, what happened was they put our reward for, I believe it was like $10,000. So I had two different people that went and said, oh, well, when Paul Staley came and told us that he did it, he confessed to us when he was drunk. I don't drink. So that alone, you think they would figure it out. But no, they got that. They came, they arrested me. I sat in jail for 18 months fighting that case, seeing these other people that were in the justice system. Some people in there were very, very guilty. They were very, very guilty, and they deserved to do. So there's some people in there that were completely innocent, and I felt horrible for them, utterly horrible. And then you see some people, just the psychology behind some of these people that I was locked up with in there was beyond me. One person, when I actually got sent to prison for a very short amount of time, which I was only in prison for a matter of months, where the judge rescinded that and released me and terminated the probation, was actually the guy from the Paducah shooting. And these people that you these heinous crimes, you meet them and talk to them and see, you see the good, you see the bad, you see everything between, but it's a life-changing thing. And I've been through, like I said, jail. I went through military training. I've been through Catholic school. I've had a very strict, angry father. I mean, I had a lot of things, but the different psychological things you encounter when you're locked up in jail that long, or going into prison. And I tell you what, when you when I went to prison, they would call it the Rotary Farm. I demanded solitary, and I went into solitary because I already knew what was going to happen, because I knew people were locked in before. And the amount of rape and things of that happen in there to people, and the things that they do to people in there, everything else is just utterly, it happened. I mean, I was sitting in a single cell for 23 hours a day, and I would see these men come in there in tears and cry and everything else. I mean, they steal all their stuff, they beat them up. And they first go through the Rotary Farm. It's just it's utter hell. It's something that no one wants to deal with. And they couldn't figure out why I wanted to deal with solitary. It's like, I get a single cell. I got a dedicated bed, because in the Rotary Farm, you got to fight for your bed. I got a bed. I got my own sink, got my own toilet. I clean it off. It's mine. I get my meals brought to me. I ain't fighting for my food. This is fine. I'm totally fine with this. Open my window, and I'll sit in this thing, and I'm chill. I'm relaxed. I can deal with that. Some people can't deal with solitary. They can't deal with it. But me, I'm fine. I just want to be able to write my family, eat my food, do my time, and not deal with all that dramatic BS. That's just me.
So when you were there for 18 months, were you eligible for bail?
My bail was $50,000 full cash.
50,000 cash. So you couldn't meet bail. So gotcha. Back to the fire. Was it an ex-girlfriend or a girlfriend's house that whatever?
No. This was a house that I owned that was completely, utterly vacant. What happened was the week before the fire, and I hate talking about this because it's a dramatic time of my life. When this whole thing happened, I originally had a girl. Me and her were doing well. We thought about getting married and everything. She sent to find out she had a baby on the way. We were all very excited and everything. Then it came out that she found out that she didn't think the baby was mine. She felt the baby was her boss's husband because they were swingers, and so she wanted an abortion. I was against it. Back and forth. She ended up trying to self-abort, then ended up, going and aborting the child anyway. Me and her family had a huge falling out, and at the time, I had a very nice house. It was like 4 bedrooms, could have been 5 bedrooms, 2 separate full kitchens. It was a really nice house. I mean, I had 2 cars paid off, house, a awesome, amazing job. Everything in my life was perfect. I mean, I was just living the dream at my age, and everything went downhill. After that, I told them they had to leave, move out. One of my cars ended up totaled in a ditch. The other one just got totally demolished, destroyed. Everything in my house of value was stolen. When I was at work, came home, everything in my house was robbed. Someone had broke out all the windows, all the porcelain, the toilets, mirrors, everything in the house was destroyed. So, I mean, literally the house was totally demoed from the inside and everything value was taken. And actually during the arson investigation, they actually found my stolen property. They didn't seize it, but they found it, which I was upset they didn't seize it. But it was very upsetting to me, going through that. So within a week's time, I lost the girl, the baby, my house was destroyed, my cars were demolished, lost my job. I lost everything within 7 days. It was just an all-time low, And then, of course, the house caught fire, everything else happened. It's like things could get any worse. So rebuilding my life from there. Then as I'm trying to rebuild my life, about a year later, I get arrested for something that happened, a year ago. So back to square one again. I lose everything. I start building things back up, knocked back down, and I'm in a jail cell. So dealing with that was nerve-wracking.
It sounds more than nerve-wracking. So how did the house – it was definitely arson?
Yeah, they said that the house, it caught fire. I said it originated from the kitchen. And then from the kitchen, it actually – they weren't sure exactly when they did the investigation what was going on because, like, the kitchen area, it looked like potentially someone was trying to cause a fire to maybe get heat or what's going on. But it originated in the kitchen, and then from the kitchen, it spread throughout the entire house.
Gotcha. So was it – and it was vacant at the time?
Yes, the house was completely vacant. I mean, all the windows were busted out.
So
everything was busted on the house. I mean,
Gotcha.
I wasn't going to stay there either because it was literally all the windows were busted out. I had the police come there, remove people. I can't live in this house anymore. I couldn't, there was literally I couldn't turn the AC on. I couldn't turn the heat on because all the windows are busted out. People are constantly coming in, because all the windows are busted out. So
what do you think
it was
happened?
vacant.
Someone broke in, homeless or something, or trying to steal something, and they just set it on fire? Is that what you think happened?
There's a lot of things that I want to say that I think happened and the things that have happened with that house and everything else. I had a lot of people that utterly hated me when that whole thing happened. Like I said, it took them a year before they made the arrest with me. And the only reason they arrested me was they put a reward out, and then some people came forward trying to get their reward money. And then, of course, I got arrested pending the trial and everything else. So it was an utterly insane year dealing with that. It went on a total witch hunt.
It sounds like you pled guilty. Tell me if this is correct. Just to be over with it, to get out of jail,
Oh, yeah.
to be with your mom,
Yep.
and you were faced with 20 years or whatever it is. So I don't think you were guilty, or it doesn't sound like you were guilty. You just wanted it over in your life. Is that correct?
So it got utterly crazy because I dealt with that, and then as I was fighting that, because they had very little on the arson thing. And my ex-girlfriends, I don't know if you go on the internet, but people have accused me of some pretty heinous sexual crimes. And they had done that to law enforcement back while I was in jail for the arson charge. So that unit actually went out and they witch hunted. And they looked as much as they could. They went through all my electronics. They went through my devices, all my social media. They talked to every single potential victim. Nothing. Nada. But, of course, my exes were like, oh, isn't it? It's like there's no victims. There's no evidence. There's nothing there. There's nothing there. And I was just sick of it. I was entirely just sick of this stuff. I want this stuff to be over with. And so finally I was like, I'll just take this. I want to go home. It's the week of I want to go home. I literally went home like the week of Thanksgiving. I went home and then I went to Thanksgiving dinner and everything. So it was so stressful.
You wanted to move on with your life. So let me go back a little bit because I thought I heard you say that because this came up on the show why you kept asking Karini to take pregnancy tests, and you said something about an ex-girlfriend and this and that. I thought you said, maybe I'm wrong, that your ex-girlfriend, the father may have been her boss who were swingers. Is that what you said?
Yes, that is actually where that comes from.
Okay, so
you are correct.
I'm very immature. Todd is too, by the way, if anyone doesn't know. He's not so mature. But I have to just ask you about that. And there's nothing wrong with it. I think it's great if you're into it. Were you part of that?
No.
So you didn't experience any swinging?
She was working, and she had, I guess, was going to hang out with her boss, and her boss was into they were into like swinging. And so what happened was she went out to hang out with them. She's hanging out with friends. I mean, her boss. I'm like, she's hanging out with her female boss. I mean, what could happen? I totally trusted her. And then she went out, and then her husband, she wanted to sleep with another man. So the deal was her husband could sleep with a woman. So she was, intoxicated, messed up. So he slept with her, and then she slept with somebody else. And then, of course, apparently the baby was the conclusion of that situation.
So
it was pretty much.
It sounds very interesting. Just to set the record straight, none of them was Judge Kavanaugh, correct?
No.
I just had to lighten it up.
There you go.
So, Paul, what did you do for a living? I just had to make a joke. I feel bad because I'm diving into your life. I feel bad, but I really think this is going to be good because there's so much nonsense on the internet, and I think this will give everyone a clean. They'll be able to watch this and learn who you really are. What did you do for a living in Kentucky? Like, what's your profession?
Well, at the time when that whole thing happened, I was actually running wireless stores. I was actually I started as a teenager. I did some wireless sales. I did really good. And then I tried to work with my dad, his company. I still did IT stuff and helped him out on the side. But I was doing very well. And I was definitely, like I said, the peak of my time in regards to my income and everything was going on. I mean, I was really good at my numbers. I was dealing with staff. Everything was great. And then I actually went from doing indirect stores. I was actually over an entire location in a Sam's Club. And I had a lot of different things that I had done, and then I ended up going at one point back to indirect where the company would actually send me out, the wireless companies would send me out to different stores and they would have me contracted to help bring the store numbers up. And it was very successful and I made a very good amount of money. After all this thing happened, I actually went from that into, believe it or not, home loans. I even worked for Wells Fargo at one point. So I definitely did a lot in sales and marketing. I like technology. I like tech work. So I like phones, but it was interesting, doing home loans and things like that also. So I definitely bounced around, did a great deal of variety of things, but money was good and things were going very well. And I was very successful up until the whole criminal record thing happened. And then of course, no more, no more banking, no more, managed jobs. I got offered so many jobs, so many amazing jobs after I got out of jail and prison. But once they ran your background, they see it, they won't do it. And the biggest thing was that what happened, they'd say, oh yeah, I explained the arson, everything's fine. But then it would come back and people don't think of this is they say, actually, we can't hire you now because they say you're insurance liability because, you did arson. So you might, I guess the insurance company's afraid you might set the building on fire. So I would be denied the jobs, It was just nerve-wracking. I would go through 4, 5, 6 interviews, beat everybody else out, become the favorite person. And then they tell me, I'm sorry, because of this charge, we can't hire you, and it was very, very, very nerve-wracking. And that was one thing nice about coming to Brazil and getting away from all that stuff because it's just haunting. It was just,
Right.
It's bothersome. You try to forget about it, you try to move on, but you can't because they run the background check, it comes up, and it's just
There's a whole
never
movement,
ending.
Paul. There's a whole movement within the criminal justice reform system. It's called to ban the box to stop asking people because you're not alone. The number of people who can't get jobs because of criminal records are in the tens. I think it's like 30 or 40 million people with records. So I hear you. And I keep bringing this up because I'm a big criminal justice reformer. Paul, you brought something else which I have to talk about, and I have to ask you, and it may be difficult. You mentioned something about your father, but it didn't come off the nicest. I think you said he was a little, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is your parent... Strict. Are your parents together? I don't want to pry too much, but what's your relationship?
My parents met when they were in high school. My father, I think they got married. My mother was 18. My father was 17. So my mother is actually 1 year older than my father. They were high school sweethearts. They've been married, I want to say a very long time. I want to say like 50 years or something now. They've been married a very, very long time. My father is a very successful businessman. He owns his own company. And he's not, he's very selective about who he's social with. He's also the best of the best in his industry. I wish I had his skills and talents. Unfortunately, I do not. But he is definitely the best of what he does. He's also very, very strict. And I don't know. I'm just trying to think of this way to explain it. Have you ever seen Orange County Choppers?
No, I don't know.
No, think
Never
somebody.
heard of it. Okay, he's strict. How's your relationship with him today? How's your relationship with him today? He's never been on the show, I don't think.
He kind of, we don't talk as much right now. I'll be talking to him soon, but I think he felt like when I went to Brazil and everything else, I abandoned the family. See, there's a lot of things behind the scenes that went on, especially me getting married in Brazil. You see, my sister, she's actually international marketing and development executive at Starbucks. She's way up there in Seattle. But she actually got married with her husband over on the West Coast, and my family were involved. So they weren't involved at all with Angel's, my sister's wedding. So then there's me, okay? Then I got married, in Brazil, none of the family involved. So my parents weren't involved with either of their children's weddings, which I think definitely hurt their feelings and offended them. And I feel really bad, like really, really bad for being doing that to them. I feel horrible, and hopefully we can do another ceremony in the United States with Carini and do something to try to make up for it. But I definitely want to be involved whenever I have a child. I definitely want to be involved with that child's, life and wedding and everything else. When a child is born, I'm a grandfather, I won't be heavily involved with that. And I think they feel like I kind of abandoned the family. Like I just up and left and just gave everything up and just made other choices. It's like, I hate for them to look at it like that because I still love them. I still consider my family. I want to be able to go back and forth between both countries. But, I can make more money in America. I can't make a lot of money in Brazil. We have some opportunities that are arising that could be potentially pretty lucrative. But at the same time, until those are in full swing, I definitely need to do a lot of work in the United States. And I also got offered a job because, with this law enforcement investigation went on me, I made a lot of friends in law enforcement because they heavily investigated me all the time. I had people that would call and say I was, harassing them at their house, and I'm sitting there talking to a police officer while he's just, in between things on his beat. He stop by, hey, Paul, how you doing? And then on the radio, it's like, Paul Staley, da-da-da-da, and the officer, is like looking at me, and it's almost like a joke. It's like, are you serious? Because people call and they'll say something, and they automatically are supposed to believe it. But I would deal things like that. So they got to, get to know me and everything else, and we would talk and, everything of that nature. So it was just nice to, to get some people, they would help me, give me advice, try to tell me what to do and everything else, and to stay out of the bad area. And I tell you right now, there is a lot of very good cops. There is a few cops that were just utterly – I've had a few cops that they shouldn't have a badge. I'll just say that. But for the most part, I'm friends with a lot of law enforcement, and they're awesome. And doing this new canine job I've been offered, actually coming and helping with that, I think it's going to be very, very good. What their angle is with that is they want to be able to allow parents that have, say, their kid has a drug problem, feel the kid has a drug problem, they can actually use the dogs to locate those drugs inside the house and help get the kid help without involving law enforcement. So trying to get them into rehab and try to help them out without them getting a criminal record.
So like personal use drug dogs, I guess.
Yes, trying to help parents and families, deal with people because, you have people that have those really bad addictions and they're trying to help them out. And, the kids, their children is very, very addicted to it. But this allows them without getting law enforcement involved or say a landlord don't want the cops come busting in their doors and ransacking the building. You can go in there and find out, what's going to happen, or what's there so they can actually get that, take care of it. And it's not all over the media. It's not all over the court dockets. It's a really good concept, and it helps keep it out of the court system, which is nice.
Right.
It sounds it. Paul, how's your relationship? So at this point, you're married to Carini. Last episode the relationship was a little rocky. Are you allowed to say how the relationship is at this point?
We have rocky moments. Every relationship we has ups and downs, so it's always a roller coaster. The language barrier is getting a lot better. We still have some problems here or there. It's a struggle. I explained to her, going back and forth, traveling, dealing with things. The fact of, where do we can't go between both countries if we wanted to. We have to establish roots and stay somewhere permanently, which we're making a decision of that. Hopefully, in the next 12 months, we want to, live and stay in America, or if we want to live and stay in Brazil primarily. But it's tough. She's got her culture and everything, and then she wants to see her family in the holidays. I want to see my family in the holidays. And there's a lot of things that, we try to take into consideration for each other. But a lot of things we didn't actually take into account, when we got into a relationship. We first started talking and everything like that, you think about, in the holidays, which family we're going to be with, everything else. It's not like you can't drive down the road to grandma's house. It's getting on a plane, getting on a boat, and everything else. It's a pretty good distance.
And Todd, you didn't watch the show, but not only did he get on a plane, you were on the Amazon River for 2 or 3 days to get to Karini's village, I think.
Yeah, the actual trip was actually went for Christmas, and we took like 10 Foot Lockers on that trip.
Yeah, I remember.
They didn't film that. It was nuts. We took. I felt really bad and we did a GoFundMe at one point to raise the money, try to get that done, and people was wondering, what is he doing? Why is he doing that? And she bought like one toy for each of the people, and then she bought clothing items, and the kids were more excited about the clothing items than the toy, which blew me away. We got them a Christmas tree. They had no Christmas tree. They had no Christmas decorations. We got them that. We let them do like a full-fledged Christmas dinner because they hadn't done that since her grandmother had died. So we went ahead and did that. And it was just it was about a week downriver. And then, of course, we had like 10 Foot Lockers. It was nuts. I did feel bad for offending them during that Christmas. And then what happened was that offended them really bad was I got the food and everything for them. They started cooking about, crack of dawn, like maybe 5, 6 in the morning, started cooking. But they didn't actually start eating the food until a little after midnight. Now, the food was not refrigerated, and it was not kept at a constant, controlled temperature. It was just out at room temperature. So I was concerned about food poisoning. So there's a very select few things that I would eat. I did try some things that I was skeptical about, and very little. And I had a little bit of stomach trouble, not much. Karini and quite a few people in her family actually got really, really bad stomach problems. And I felt really bad for her. And we had that discussion. It's like, you have to do this, food safety. There's 2 points. She's like, no, in Brazil, we don't have that. We don't do it. Like, you understand, it's science. You have to do proper food safety. Now, that was just, there. But, in Manaus, at the restaurants in Manaus, they understand that. Because I asked some chefs at restaurants in Manaus, this is what happened. Is this part of your culture? And he said, no, absolutely not. Actually, the restaurants in here, we follow very strict guidelines. But, I guess from the small town perspective where she was from, they weren't, fully used to all the normal food safety things. So it was very, very I felt really bad. I didn't want to be offensive at all, but I really didn't want to get really, really sick. But
I don't blame you. Out of curiosity, why did it take him from the crack of dawn to start cooking food to eat it at midnight? It just takes that long to cook food there?
I went there in the morning. They started cooking, and then I visited them for a little bit. I didn't stay extremely long because it was extremely hot, and I couldn't deal with the heat. So they started cooking the food, and they would prep a dish, and they'd prep another dish, they'd prep another dish, they'd prep another dish, and it was like her mother, her aunt, I'm not sure exactly, her cousins, but they were all prepping different dishes, and then that dish would sit, and they would do another dish, and then that dish would sit, and they were just preparing all the different items. And there was a lot of items. I actually went out to some stores and actually bought some things like a cake, some things for them to have there. But then they wanted to wait until after the Mass. So after the Mass, then they were going to celebrate and eat. But they were not going to celebrate until after they went to church, because church was very, very, very important. So, and that the entire township is centered around the church. So they take it very, very, very seriously.
Got it.
Do the TV crews have like 24/7 access to you guys right now? Do you live with them? Are they always around?
With when the first season we did, they documented. We were, I think, for about 3 weeks straight. We were together, traveling and everything, and we would film sometimes 12, 14-hour days. Our final interview day, oh my God, that was like 24 hours straight. They did Karini for like almost 12 hours, and we like 12 hours, eating there, It was a building. I'll never forget that day, and I'll never want to do that ever again. It was an island on the Amazon River, and it was like a little wooden shack, no AC, no fans, because the audio guy wanted the audio to be perfect. They wrapped the entire building in black plastic, and it was like 95 degrees, so it was like an oven, and I could not bear with that heat. And then in between interviews, I actually went out and fished for piranha out on the docks. So it was an experience. I mean, I like the piranha fishing part, but the heat and the interviews and doing that for, like I said, almost like easily, we were there for easily 24 hours straight. I think we left there at like 5, 6 in the morning. We got on the boat. Now, what was so bad about this Rhode Island was they had to get everything approved when they get the interview set up. So they would take a photo. They had to get on the boat, go upriver, get signal, send that photo to New York and LA, get it approved. They would used to say, can you change this or that? Then they would get on the boat, go back, make the changes, take a photo, go back up the river, send the photo again, and then they would say something, okay, either do that or change that or it's okay, or can you go back to how it was the first time? We'd like that better. And this would going to go on, and this would really drag out what we were doing. But it was definitely an never experience. Now, that was only, I said, 3 weeks, and then I stayed the 4th week by myself. And then they actually sent a Brazilian camera guy, a producer, actually. He actually was in the scene, the last one we did. He actually filmed the entire and produced the final scene that we had in season 1. Octavio has been with us from the first time we were in Brazil all the way. Every scene we do in Brazil, he's with us. But season 2 was very different. We filmed probably close to 10 or 11 weeks on or off. And these are like 12 to 14-hour days of filming. And but they would film for like 3 weeks. I think, come back, leave, come back. And we had so much drama. And when they would film, now the first time we stayed in a hotel and everything together. So yeah, they had 24/7 access. I mean, the crew got their off hours, but if something happened, they had to quickly get things together and get on it. Where season 2, it wasn't constant. Now, we eventually did end up staying in a hotel where they can monitor us more and be around us more. But they try to get as much access as they can. And that's one thing we signed up for. We signed up for it. And they filmed so much. There's so much filmed. There was so much filmed in season 2 with me that I think they were thinking about possibly doing 2 seasons out of it because there was so much things filmed. And that's how people see it. Like, the timeline is confusing. It's like, okay, he's married, she's pregnant, or she wants a divorce, she's pregnant, miscarries, and it adds timeline. It's like one big event after the next. And it's confusing because you're going from week to week. But you're going from, married, pregnant, miscarriage. It's going, because that baby was 9 weeks in one day, and then it was dead for 1 week. So about, I guess, 10 weeks from the time of conception when the whole thing was filming. So people get confused. They see that, the timeline is so compressed and simplified. People watching the show don't understand that. It doesn't go from week to week. Some people even think that the shows are like literally live. Like everything that we film just happened. It's filmed. They have to compress it, edit it, put everything together. And they do a great job at simplifying things. And my situation is so complicated. And there's so many things that happen in our story that, the crew, I will say this, I was surprised they didn't quit on season 1. We had so much things happen, throughout our filming. But, it just gets nuts. I felt bad for them. In season 2, we lost our father at one point. That was nuts. Trying to locate Karini's father, and me and Karini had a huge fight over that.
Paul,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I hear you. Paul, so let me tick off a couple questions for you that I think people want to know. How's your relationship with your in-laws now?
Her father is good. I haven't seen him. Her father, it breaks my heart. He has some things he's dealing with right now, and I really wish he could travel up and stay more time with us. I think it might be better for him. I would definitely not be against the idea of when we're in Brazil having her father live with us. He's a very good man. He tries to communicate with me as best he can. Like I said, when I went to Christmas, I try to, he just shows me utter kindness. And I try to do everything I can for him, and he does everything he can for me. And then me and her mother had a very serious falling out.
as you see on the show, when that stuff was filmed, things hit the fan so bad, they flew a film crew in almost within like part of the Brazil crew got here within a day. Then the American people got here in a matter of a couple days. They were here. I mean, things got that bad. They didn't show all the drama that happened. It was really dramatic. There was a lot of things that happened. Some things flooded over onto social media, unfortunately. Some people might remember those crazy social media posts, but it was that bad. Things got really, really crazy. But then, her mother found out the truth on some things. Karini confessed and told some things. And so once her mother and their family realized reality, what was going on, things changed completely. Everything changed in that regard completely. And we definitely got a very good middle ground. And like I said, I have nothing against them. I hope now they have nothing against me. We got through a lot of the cultural problems and things like that here. But it was nerve-wracking for me and her mother. And she wanted to do everything in her power. And she was serious. She would do everything in her power for us to get divorced. And that was one thing, she said, Karini just told me this not too long ago. Something that her mom said I didn't know. But her mom said to her that if you go back to him, you're no daughter of mine or something like that. And some really harsh words. But now her mother, like I said, she's totally, she's totally different now. Positive.
So you're getting along with her. It's neutral, you would say.
It's neutral, but the frustrating part is right now we're bouncing around travel a lot. And one of the things was that I got really flustered with Karini was because at one point she was medically unable to travel, so I had to do some traveling. And she couldn't. So her mother was supposed to be with Karini and not leave her. She promised me she wouldn't leave for any reason. Her mother up and went back to Tocantins, and Karini had to be around with, in Manaus with the medical facility, and she was unable to travel. So someone had to stay with her. And I said, oh, well, the other family members can take care of her. Like, well, they only see her at night. I'm not going to leave Karini like that. I refuse to do that. So I was frustrated. So then whenever I redid all my things, everything squared away, got things done, and was going to travel again, she said she was unable to. I'm not able to come back any other week, but Karini be by ourselves. Like, no. So finally I said, look, I have to travel and take care of some things. I have to take care of this, and then I'll come back. But while I'm gone, I will pay. Find somebody in the family, I don't care who it is, that Karini agrees upon that she likes. I will pay for their ticket to come here and stay with her because I have to go. I have to take care of things. I have to make money. I have to travel back and forth. It's very stressful, and deal with that. And Karini wasn't able to travel at the time because she was in no medical condition to travel. So I need somebody to be here with her. I need this. I can't stay here constantly because I have to do things so I can make sure we have our bills paid and things are taken care of.
So are you working in Brazil now?
I got some things I can do back and forth. But the majority of how I can make money is in the United States. That's how I make the most money quickly. So what taking care of things there.
Have you been going back and forth between the U.S. and Brazil?
Yeah, I've had to go some things back and forth. It's just, I have to make sure that she's taken care and provided for. And that's one thing I will not do is when she's in this condition, I will not let her be alone. So that's why I was frustrated. Her mom had promised me that she would stay and never leave. And I told her mom, I said, look, if you can just stay with her, until she's better and she can travel, I'll pay any bills you have. I'll send money back. I'll pay all your bills. I'll take care of everything you take care of. I'll make sure you have money for food, bills, everything, everything we take care of. I just want Karini to have you there to take care of her. So we did have some little bit of frustration with that, but I understand her mom now. She explained she's trying to retire and things like that. So I was okay, I understand. You got some problems going on. I totally understand that. I understand that completely. But, I just wanted to make sure Karini had some money. And Karini's very excited to travel. She's very excited to check out the United States and everything else. She had, like I said, her health had hit a really bad point, and she needed her doctors to monitor her situation. And it was very nerve-wracking. So it was nerve-wracking.
Yeah, I get it. To see someone you love in pain and suffering is not good. One of the things that I think Karini said or the show came off was that you would lose your temper a little bit or were a little on edge sometimes. Is that a fair statement, you think, or was that blown out of proportion?
No, there's certain things that I would get upset and lose my temper on. I didn't appreciate it. That's one thing I don't like, when someone tells me they're going to do something and they lie to me, or someone steals from me or anything like that. I take things like that very seriously. I'm not just talking about like food or things like that. I'm talking about like if I pay somebody to come and do a job, and then they take the money and don't come back and do that job, I'm going to get pretty irate. And there's certain things, I would definitely get upset and angry about. A lot of things I'm good if I control my temper on. And this time, like I said, in season 2, the crew was very, 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 very good at helping us out with things. And I got really upset with the whole hospital thing. And the crew helped out a lot. And I will say Sharp Entertainment did an amazing job. And this truth behind the story with that is what they did, which was just amazing that they even did this, was we had went to Craney's doctor, and they had told us that there's abnormalities. They thought something was really wrong with the fetus. They told us she couldn't see her for another 4 to 5 weeks. Keep in mind that when we went to the hospital, that the doctor there said that she had the baby die for about a week ago. So she wouldn't even been able to find out what's going on or get taken out for another month. And walking around with a month of the dead fetus is just insane. So we went and tried everywhere. Now, what they did was they located us. They did not pay for our medical. They did not pay for it, but they located us a hospital that was able to see us. They used their contacts. They found somebody to pull some strings. They could get us seen. They could not pay for any of our medical stuff, but they were able to find us a facility so we could verify what was going on, because that stage had to be done before we could do the next procedure. So the fact that they were able to locate that and help us locate that hospital, was a blessing, was a real blessing, because other than that, Greenwood had a dead fetus in her belly for up to, a year and 9. And then they also were able to front us. They were actually paid us for a previous episode that we had filmed. They usually keep all of our money until the end of the season. Because of this whole situation, they made an exception. We're going to pay you for one of your earlier episodes, so you can pay for these medical fees and you can take care of your wife. To me, that was just really nice that they went out of their way to make sure that they would get us money and things to take care of her. I really, really appreciated what they did. I did get, frustrated at some of the medical facilities at one point, with public facilities. And for example, at one point, Karina was at a public facility, and the public facility she was at was bad. And the only person allowed back at the public facility was her mother. And she will never go back to a public facility like this ever again. But she was nerve-wracking. She was upset, and she didn't, know what was going on. So she sent me photos, and she looked like she was on a ripped prison mat, and no pillows, no sheets, no nothing, and she was sad. And so I went back at the time we were actually at the hotel, and criminal me, I had actually took sheets from the hotel, pillows, everything, and I put in a backpack, and I gave it to her mother so she can use this while she's here. Then when she gets out, I'm going to take it back to the hotel, take care of things, everything else. So she took that backpack. Karina used the pillows, sheets, everything. Then when we left, they put it back in the backpack at the hotel. I put it back in the hotel room as it was. And but at least I knew I wanted to make sure she was comfortable. It was important to me that she was comfortable and she was not in any type of situation that was painful. So, and then of course now we don't do that. We go to private. I make sure we have money to go to private hospitals, like the hospital that you saw on the show. That's what we have to take care of situations. We stick with that now because Karina's been out of the hospital quite a few times. She's been known to vomit blood. And if other situations go on with her, it's get very, very nerve wracking. She's lost right now. She's actually losing weight, which is nerve wracking. She finally had gained some weight, and now she's actually losing quite a bit of weight. And like I said, she vomits a lot. And when she vomits blood,
is she still sick?
She's got some. Me and her both have GI problems. Now,
I was going to ask you about you've had. Because I have weight problems too. I've seen your weight loss and weight gains. I was going to ask you about that. We'll talk about that in a minute. But tell me about Karina's health.
She has a lot of GI problems too, and other problems with her health. So it's very tough for her for anything. It's seeing her get sick and then losing weight and everything else, and going in and out of the hospital. Like I said, the one time she got really sick was in the hospital. Like I said, she vomited blood and everything else, and only, her mother was allowed back. That's why, like I said, after going through that, it's like, okay, when you deal with anything with the baby or anything medical from this point on, we're dealing with good private hospitals. I'll do whatever I can to make sure you have that. And we've been doing very well in that regard. But that one experience was horrible. But no, she gets very, very sick, loses a lot of weight. Sometimes she'll try to eat, can't eat. It's nerve-wracking. Where I told her I've dealt with that before too, and I try to help her out with it. Because the thing is with her, and I feel bad for her, because she, for example, anyone that has really bad gastritis or really bad stomach disorder, any type of GI disorder, there's certain things you can't have, like fried foods, acidic foods, peppers. And then she'll go and her family cook her food, and she'll be cooking they'll fry a bunch of food up, so it's fried food with a whole bunch of pepper on it, and then she'll start drinking either some bunch of juice or some soft drinks. I'm like, sweetheart, your diet is making this situation worse. You really need, when you're getting these problems, you need to change your diet. Just eat some bland rice, eat this, eat that. Try when you're going through a flare up, you have to change your diet, or things are going to continue to get worse. And I guess she's never been properly educated in that regard on certain food items actually make the situation worse. So I'm working with that through her with that as best I can. But me, I actually, when I first went to Brazil, you'll notice my pants wouldn't stay on. My pants kept falling off. None of my clothes fit.
You're very
thin.
thin.
What happened was, yes, I was losing between 1 to 2 pounds a day. I lost all my body fat, and I went to the doctor.
From your GI problems?
I was down to about 120 pounds.
Wow.
And I told the doctor, I asked him, I was like, will I be okay on this trip? And he's like, honestly, you'll probably gain weight. He was right. I actually gained weight. I'm probably like I went up to like 150, 160. I went up quite a bit, very short amount of time. But I just was amazing. And then when I went back to America, at one point my problems came back, lost a little bit of weight. Because even in season 2 at one point, I lost a lot of weight when I came back. And of course, I put a lot of weight back on. But that was one thing, when Jesse saw me and I had this big belly sticking out. I was like, oh my God, what happened? I was like, yeah, got fat. Joking around, I got married, let myself go.
Gotcha.
But I gained a lot of weight. And people were like, oh my God, he's sticking his belly out. I was like, you know what? And Jesse's told me you should post a shirtless picture on the internet. I was like, I'm tempted to, just to do a before and after of my progress.
Paul, want some advice? Don't post a shirtless, no shirtless picture on the internet.
Ever.
Okay, I'll give you some advice. Okay, don't do that in today's world. Keep it clean. Paul, is there anything that we didn't talk about that you want to get out to your fans? Because now's the time. I want them to. Because I think you cleared the air with a lot of stuff. Is there anything else you want to tell everyone that you don't think has been out there?
Well, I'm trying to think. What other questions? Is there any other questions you can think of that you have? Well, anything at all that you might want to ask?
The only thing I would think of is something unrelated to the show. If you want to talk a little bit about your personal, what you like to do on the side when you're not doing the show, hobbies, interests, books, movies, sports, anything like that.
Well, a lot of things I like to do in America I'm able to here. I used to like to walk here, and I try to walk as much as I can when the temperature is not too terribly hot. I did like to go to the movies and that. Can't do that here because I don't speak the language.
Paul, speaking of walking, you walked out with what looked like a bulletproof vest, but
yes.
But that was what, a cooling vest, correct?
Yes, actually, we had a producer in the beginning of my season, and she would not allow me to wear my mosquito gear or my heat gear off camera. So off camera, I would have on mosquito gear and my heat cooling gear, which was hilarious. But even at my wedding, me and Karina had used the heating vest and my mosquito stuff because we were on the river. There was mosquitoes everywhere and it was hot. So we were actually sharing the heat vest and mosquito stuff, which was hilarious. But she didn't film any of that because she thought it was too weird. So that was an intense thing.
So you were too weird for reality TV. Is that what you're saying?
I'll tell you one thing else at the end of this. That is, it definitely puts everything to where it puts the hair thing and it puts the umbilical cord and everything else to just, I mean, it makes it look like nothing compared to what I'll get into. But no, we had, I had actually wore the cooling vest, and people, even at the security guards in the mall, thought it was a bulletproof vest, and they would follow me around, and I unzip it, and you see ice packs. They probably thought it was a bomb, and they really watched me then. I'm like, my God. So I stopped wearing it as much as I used to. But I wore that a lot on really, really hot days. Cranny likes it. She likes the head wrap the most. Cranny likes to wear the head wrap the most. When she gets a headache or she gets hot, she'll put that thing on. She puts her little mask on. She looks like Sub-Zero from Mortal Kombat. And the mosquito stuff too. Now I've gotten over the mosquito stuff because, in my opinion, if I would have got a disease, I would have done got it by now. And I did get definitely sick a few times while in Brazil, but I got better. I felt like I was going to die. It was horrible. But Creanie is mosquito paranoid now. If there's a mosquito in the house, she freaks out.
I assume you made her mosquito paranoid.
Oh, the doctor did, actually. Something she was. Well, after the whole going to the doctors and talk to her about the whole thing, because you got Zika, dengue, you have all these diseases that if you're trying to have a kid or anything like that, different things she don't want to get, because especially some of these diseases can stay in your bloodstream for up to 6 months, which is nerve-wracking. Which potentially with that baby, the baby's deformalities, I was determined to figure it out, and I had to figure out this because I'm big on science. And she said, "Is it part of your genetics? Is it part of no?" And she said, "Her genetics." And I know a lot of her family members have a lot of miscarriages, and her aunt was pregnant like 6 months with twins and lost both twins. So I looked at the deformalities the doctor was talking about. I went through all the terms, translated to English, and studied. And the closest thing I came to was it was very similar to people that get infected with Zika, was the deformalities that was with the baby. So I was like, well, that's interesting. So that definitely gave me a little bit on edge with that too. And so she got very mosquito paranoid. She wears repellent. We have mosquito lamp in the house. We have these little mosquito things, the outlets. Very, very mosquito. She also can't deal with heat anymore at all whatsoever. But yeah, that was a very big switch with us. With things that were with me, and now she does, and I'm not as bad. Just like there was a scene in season 1 they cut out. Be glad they cut the scene out, because I stripped down to my tidy whities and got in the river at one point to prove a point. And Carini would not get in the water and kept screaming the Portuguese word for death. I was a little kind of scared at that point. Why she's screaming she won't get in the water because she's saying the word death. And I'm, the camera crew is there filming me. I'm like, well, I guess if I die, they're going to film why. And what happened was she was actually on her time of the month, and she didn't want to get in the water where there was known to have piranhas and other fish.
Sounds like a wise move. Do you just 1 or 2 more questions, and I'm going to let you go because I know you have dinner waiting. But do you socialize with like Carini and her friends? Like, is there ever a group of you? So there's a group of like 2 or 3 couples go out, and you'll go out with them?
Yeah. Sometimes we do more now. We had an argument. I know before the whole thing, we had an argument with pregnancy, where she would go out. She liked to leave in the evening, about 6, 7 o'clock at night. She would come back the next morning at like 6, 7 in the morning, sometimes 10, 11 in the morning.
Without you?
Without me. And it would frustrate me. And then we had a huge argument.
Where was she?
This is one of the big fights. Huge fights we had. And what happened was she actually left the house. And someone tried to break in our apartment. So I was worried. So I went down to her friend's house, see where she was. And the men there said they're not here. So a police officer saw me freaked out and said, "Hey, are you all right? We'll call your wife." Okay, thank you. They call Carini up, and Carini actually was at a club dancing with her friends without me. And so she rolls up in a guy's car. Her and the man get out. Her friend get out. They say, "Everything's okay. Are you okay?" I was like, "Yeah." She's like, "Okay, I'm going back to the club." I was like, "I want to go with you." So no, we'll be back later. So she gets back in the car with the guy, and they all go back to the club. I'm just kind of like really hurt at this point. So I go back home. I determine how I'm going to react. And I was like, I'm going to get dressed up, and I'm going to go up to the club, and I'm going to go see her. So I get up there and go see her, and so I spend some time with her. And as soon as they get up there, they see me, they get in the car, and they leave. Like, that's kind of insulting. So at that point, I figured, what I'm going to do? I'm going to get angry, upset. I was like, you know what? I'm not even going to get dramatic right now. I'm not going to do something stupid. I went back home. I packed up my computer and packed some other stuff up, and then ended up going to a hotel and staying the night and just kind of relaxing and everything else. And I did that several times. And we had some arguments and fights back and forth. And she's like, well, I'm going to break my computer if you don't come back, blah, blah, blah. And she had drank. And what she didn't, she just did like a photo of like where she had the computer there. And she took me down the stairs, took a photo, some other weird stuff. But, you know, and she got a little destructive when she was drinking. When she was drinking, she was very, very destructive.
So I assume she stopped drinking.
Yes.
Okay.
No more drinking, no more frustration, no more stuff like that. If she goes out somewhere, we can go out as a couple. Like I said, if I want to go meet her somewhere, I'll go meet her. You know, we always know where each other's at. Like I told her, it's not that I don't trust you. It's that what if something happens, you know, and I need to get a hold of you. You know, I want to be able to do that. And the fact you went out with a club that without me was totally, you know, was messed up, and you left when I got there.
Do you think
that was really frustrating?
I guess so. I think it would be very frustrating. I wouldn't put up with it, to be honest with you. Do you think Karini loves you? I'm going to let you go. I just have like 30 more seconds. Do you think Karini loves you?
Definitely, I feel she loves me. I think we had some points we back and forth on stressful things, but I definitely feel she loves me now. I feel she loves me. And I guess the only thing I think I'll add that was very strange, when we actually went through the miscarriage, and I'm not sure if the show is going to show this or not. Don't go too much into it. But they actually gave me a little jar when we actually left. And I'll just say that it was something I didn't expect. They gave me in that jar. And
from the miscarriage? That sounds a little weird.
It was very weird. Did not see that coming.
Yeah.
It was like I felt like I was looking at a very demonic magic 8-ball because it was in a really dark black fluid. And then when it floated around, I saw what it was. It just blew me away. And it just tore me up.
I don't blame it. What'd you do with it, out of curiosity?
Well, we didn't want to throw it in the trash, and we didn't want to. We can't bury it anywhere we're at in Manaus because animals just dig it up. So we still have it in the refrigerator until we go to Tocantins. We can bury it in the graveyard.
So is it like next to your cheese and milk and like all your other stuff?
No, between the ginger and the mayonnaise.
Sounds a little weird. Sounds a little weird. Do you love Karini?
Oh, I love her. I love her to death, and I feel she loves me.
Well,
but that was one thing I didn't expect the hospital to do. In America, that wouldn't happen.
No.
You can't even get – if they pull a tooth, they keep the tooth for medical reasons. It's a medical safety issue. So the fact that they gave me that, it's kind of like, oh, by the way, here's your baby. And it's like, what am I going to do with this? I don't want to throw it away. I'm not going to flush it on the toilet. I mean, I can't really where we live at, people know where we live at. We can't bury it because animals will just dig it up. It's like we need to bury it in the graveyard. We can go to your village, do it in the graveyard. That'd be a good idea. But yeah, it was very nerve-wracking.
Well, Paul,
mean, it's just,
I hear you. I want to thank you for being on the show today. I think it did a good job of clearing the air. I think you got a lot of good information out there. I hope you were happy with it. I hope you said everything you wanted to say. I wish you and Karini the best. I just want to leave you with one thing. You said earlier something that your father was a tremendous success and that you wish you could be as successful as him. And I have to tell you, we all have our own ways of being successful. You may not be successful in the same way he was, but you are just as successful, you're just as talented, and you're just as a good a person as he is in different ways. Every single one of us has our own talents, and it's up to us to use them. So I don't want you to think for a second that you're living in your father's shadow or you're not as good or as successful as your father, because you're a good guy, and you are. You have a big heart. You really do, Paul. And I hope, if anything, I want to uplift you and encourage you and have you believe in yourself more.
Thank you.
Well said, Jack.
Paul, thank you very much. Please send our best to Karini. Anytime you want to come on, you're welcome, and I really appreciate it. And TLC, thank you very much for letting Paul come on. Watch the show Sunday night. I think it's like the #1 reality show on right now, and the ratings are out of sight. Paul, you're the best.
I appreciate it. Like I said, in a couple of weeks, if you definitely want to have me back on, there'll be a lot of things coming on these next few episodes. And I'm sure a lot of people are very curious about it. So I definitely
anytime, Paul, anytime you want, your open invitation. Thank you very much.
Are you sure? I think it's that whatever's going on in the White House is the #1
That's
reality
true.
show.
Paul, thank you very much. Everyone else, thank you. We'll see you another time. Todd, you know what? I enjoyed talking to Paul. Everyone's a little quirky. He's a little quirky, but I'm a little quirky.
Who's
I have
not
GI
quirky?
problems. We all have our own shtick and our own quirkiness, and he's the same as the rest of us. He just has some of his quirky problems.
Right.
So,
Plus, he's living all his trials and tribulations in the public eye, which is never easy. So
I wouldn't
God
want to do
bless
it.
you.
Anyway, there's Karini. So thank you, everyone, and we will see you online.
Yep.
Like us on YouTube, like us on Facebook, like us on Twitter, all the normal stuff, everyone. Thank you very much, everyone.
Have a great
week.
Yep.
The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.
When the earth was created, the word came down. Take this world and turn